Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Tuesday, June 10th. Investors continue to track U.S. China trade developments this morning after markets ended mixed but essentially flat yesterday. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ were able to notch slight gains. The S&P 500 picked up just about 5 points or 0.09%. The NASDAQ added 61 points or 0.31%. The Dow closed the regular session nearly unchanged, down by only 1 point. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We are positive. The S&Ps are showing, green. We're up 0.13%. So, it's fractionally higher, which is good. It really is the U.S. China trade talks that, which are continuing today. That's really, the focus. The media is reporting, that there are indications that the U.S. appears to be easing some technology export restrictions in exchange for China lifting or easing limitation on rare earth exports. Yeah, that's probably what it's going to be. An announcement is scheduled sometime today, so we got that would be positive. That's really the driving factor behind the markets today. Apple Computer, they did unveil their new live translation capabilities and a suite of additional AI-powered features at the Worldwide Developers Conference yesterday. A little underwhelming. They didn't really come up with anything groundbreaking, but they're already stuck. Well, it's going to lead to a bigger event next year. Yeah, that's still 12 months away, but okay. Then you got to talk about this bill in the Senate. The major tech companies, they're actively lobbying the U.S. senators to preserve the clean energy tax credits and loan funding that would be, as the current bill stands, it would be aggressively phased out. And so they're talking to the senators saying, hey, keep those in. And now the fund managers, on the other hand, they're lobbying the Senate as well over a provision that's tucked inside the bill that said that they feel could lead to foreign investors quickly pulling money out of the U.S. So, that bill will be experiencing changes. Upcoming reports that the market's going to be waiting on include the CPI tomorrow, then the PPI report, and then the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Survey. Those are the three ones on deck, but nothing really today on the earnings front. CASY stores trading higher, UNFI's trading higher. After earnings releases, after the bell today, you get GameStop and GitLabs. They're going to be reporting, taking a look over at Europe. You got the DAX. The DAX is down 86 points or 0.35%. That's actually pretty good because it was down, like 150 points earlier. So it's really, come back strong. But there is some weakness in defense stocks. The FTSE, on the other hand, the FTSE's up 0.55% or 48 points. The UK unemployment rate rose to 4.6%. Now, this cooling labor market, that's viewed as a positive, which means the Bank of England is more likely to implement a rate cut. I think that rate cut's not going to happen until September, but, keep an eye on that. France, the market's flat. It's down, it's down 0.02%, or 1.54% at 1.54 points. So it's essentially flat. Then we're turning our attention over to Asia and seeing what happened in the Asian markets last night. And the Nikkei gained 122 points. That's 0.32%. Yes, the yen did weaken, but I did see pharma stocks move higher. Hong Kong was essentially flat, down 18 points or 0.08%. Sentiment fell a little bit. Consumer and tech stocks, gave up their early morning gains, but it just closed flat. And the Shanghai in China lost 14 points or 0.44%, kind of weighed down by tech stocks. Oil, on the other hand, we're keeping our attention on oil, and oil is trading higher. You get WTI at $65.70 a barrel. You get Brent at $67.49 a barrel. Hey, the key report is the API stockpiles report that's due out after the bell today. That's going to be a key focus. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update report, Emily.
Well, as you mentioned, a number of things you're watching this morning, and not least of which are sort of those bigger headlines that are moving the markets. But we do want to dive into details throughout today's show so that we have in our back pockets anything that could be moving the markets today. One of those areas is earnings action, though not a ton going on. There's definitely some worth noting. So, Bill, give us a rundown of what we should be watching when it comes to earnings action.
Got to start off with CASY Stores, ticker CASY. They delivered a beat of 71 cents on higher revenue. That stock's up over 10%, 10.63%. Remember, they bought out all those Big Lot stores. They're starting to convert them into CASY stores. It's having a positive effect on the revenue. That's why you're seeing that big jump. Then you got Smucker's Jam, ticker SJM, Sam John Michael. They beat by 6 cents, but it was done on lower revenue. That stock's down 7.73%. UNFI, listen, they did a beat at 22 cents. They did it on higher revenue. That stock's up 7.40% this morning. Upcoming after the bell today, you got GitLab, ticker GTLB. Their EPS is 15 cents. Expected move is 13.47%. Then you got GameStop, ticker GME, Grace Michael Edward. Their EPS is 8 cents. Expected move is 12.10%. So a lot of good earnings action happening today, Emily.
Bill, you're following those earnings using your NewsWare, that alert that you have for earnings. So you're catching those all as they hit the tape. You're also watching economic events. You did give us a preview of at least one report to watch today. And you did mention yesterday that the Fed is on its blackout period ahead of its next meeting. Give us a look at everything we should be watching when it comes to the day's economic events.
Yeah, there's no real economic events happening today. I mean, there's the API stockpiles report that comes out at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's the focus really today is going to, well, tomorrow it's going to be on the CPI print in the morning, which is expected to show a 0.3% monthly rise in core prices. And then you got to talk about the trade talks. I mean, the trade talks with India, they're supposedly going very well. They were, supposed to end Sunday. They push forward. There's more going on today. And when you're pushing out the trade talks like this, that's actually kind of viewed as a positive that they're close to a deal. And of course, the U.S. China one, that's the big one, and we could get an announcement this afternoon. But on an economic front, I mean, there's no real significant reports happening before the bell today, Emily.
And you did point out again that, those U.S. China trade talks are really the headline here. We will continue to follow developments on that front. As you continue to follow developments on other fronts as well, we can hear from your opening. You are following those corporate headlines. You had at least one mention of Apple there, and you do follow your FANG stocks grouped together in your NewsWare along with your Dow 30 stocks. And you also follow other types of news, data, and information, things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 21 higher. I got 2 unchanged and 7 lower. McDonald's is leading the leg lower. I mean, got a couple downgrades this morning from some third-tier brokers, but when a third-tier broker does a double downgrade, it really will affect the stock. But you look at some of the news behind, and the FANG stocks are trading, mostly higher. I mean, Apple's flat, but everything else is in the green. The Apple at WWDC conference that's continuing today. Amazon, they're committing $20 billion to a Pennsylvania data center, which could create some regulatory concerns. Google chatbots are replacing Google searches as a headline I saw this morning. Tesla, I mean, Tesla's up, 2%, but one of the big brokers is out there saying Q2 deliveries are on track for another poor quarter. So got to be cautious about that. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stock, Disney's going to pay NBC Universal another $438.7 million for its stake in Hulu. IBM is building the world's first large-scale fault-tolerant quantum computer. Ooh, that's nice. Johnson & Johnson, Kennedy's fired of independent CDC advisors, undermines vaccine confidence. In terms of guidance news, Designer Brands, that's DBI, David Boy India, they withdrew their 2025 guidance. Smucker Jams, SJM, they see full year 2026 EPS coming in 850 to 950. Street estimate headed at 1027. Big downtick. That's why the stock's getting smoked this morning. In terms of shareholders meeting, there's two shareholders meetings going on today that I find interesting. One is Riot Platforms, ticker RIOT, Richard Indy Oscar Tom. They're having a shareholders meeting today at 10 a.m. And Rigetti Computers, ticker RGTI, one of the quantum stocks, Richard Grace Tom India. They're having a shareholders meeting today that starts at noon Eastern. In terms of buyback news, IBTA, India Boy Tom, Apple, Ibotta announces a $100 million increase to its share repurchasing plan. In terms of catalyst calls, Cuervo, QRVO, Quinton, Richard, Victor, Oscar, Citibank places it on a 90-day upside positive catalyst watch list. And that's what I have for you in terms of news in the tape today, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional NewsWire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
Cadence Systems, ticker CDNS, Charlie David, Nancy Sam. It's all about the possible announcement of the U.S. China expectations. Because I think they're going to do something on chip restrictions, and that's going to be positive. I mean, you look at yesterday's call volume on the stock, 3,682 versus put volume at 2,822. It is positive on the call side. Open interest is a little differently, but because you get 30,000 on the call side, you get 31,000 on the put side. But remember, Trump put export restrictions on Cadence Systems selling into China. So that's still built into the open interest, but I think that's going to turn around. And I think we can, grab 1% on this today. I mean, I'm hoping to get in the 301, 302 area. In the morning, and I think if an announcement happens out of China, out of these U.S. China trade talks, this stock could really easily gain 1% on the day. So my pick of the day is Cadence Design Systems, ticker CDNS, Charlie David, Nancy Sam, Emily.
Trading at Cadence Design Systems sort of on that news cycle today, Bill. And coming up just a moment, we will do a check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was more of an earnings play. So stick with us through that. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Morgan Stanley markets $5 billion for Elon Musk-owned XAI in loans and bonds, according to some source out there. Howard Lutnick, remember, he's one of those guys that loves a microphone. But he said, the U.S., the talks with China are going very well. China doesn't really talk much. They're saying, they're still rather pessimistic, but not overly pessimistic, if that makes sense. I think that they're just being very cautious and not really commenting, but they want to stick to the script of saying that the U.S. needs to honor its word in terms of trade talk, in terms of the trade talks. So keep an eye on that. United Therapeutics, UTHR, fails after Insmed TPIP meets endpoints in study. Booz Allen, BAH, Boy Apple Henry announces strategic investment in Conductor AI. Paramount Global, Power Up, Paul Apple, Richard Apple, they're going to be cutting their U.S. workforce by 3.5%. Citibank, Citi's Q2 banking revenue up mid to single digits year over year. AT&T passes more than 300 million fiber locations. Jazz Pharmaceuticals, the FDA gave them approval for one of their drugs. Novo Nordisk, ticker NVO, trading higher. There's an active hedge fund that's starting to build a stake, apparently. Chewy, CHWY, they're releasing earnings tomorrow.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading today, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was United Natural Foods. They did release earnings this morning. We did hear you mention the stock earlier in the show. It is trading higher. They reported a Q3 EPS of 44 cents. That was anywhere from 22 to 23 cents better than the analyst estimates out there. Revenue for the quarter came in at $8.1 billion versus the consensus of $7.78 billion. The company did lower its profit outlook despite those higher Q3 sales. They did offer a full year 2025 EPS of 70 cents to 90 cents. The consensus there had been in the middle, about 82 cents. They see a full year 2025 revenue of $31.3 to $31.7 billion versus the consensus of $31.6 billion. So really still in line with consensus estimates. The stock is trading higher. Bill, how did your call work out?
This was a wild one. I mean, UNFI, I make the pick, and then, at 8:30 yesterday, there's an SEC filing. It turns out they got hit with a cyber incident that caused the stock to just fall apart in the morning. And, the stock opened up at 27.51, and by the close, it was trading $25.94. But this morning, after that earnings beat, it hit 27.90. So if you look at it, the stock opened 27.51 and it hit 27.90. That kind of does beat the 1% goal. So you got to call it a win. And boy, it was volatile, but it was an earnings play and it did work out, Emily. It did work out.
Sometimes that volatility does work out. If you were able to get in at that hit and having your Newsware, you were able to catch that information so you did know what was going on. If you were able to grab it and then get a gain today, a win. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Cadence Design Systems pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Bonney, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.